In our first reading and in our gospel, we hear a common theme of the Sabbath. We hear something taking place in our first reading where all of the Israelites gather together, and the prophet Ezra stands up and reads for about 8 hours to everyone the law and the scriptures to the people. And so if you think Mass is long, the Catholic Mass, they had to do it for 8 hours there. So, but anyways, we have the standard Sabbath, much like our own. And then we see in the Gospel, we see Jesus honoring the Sabbath day. It says that it was the day of the Sabbath, and Jesus went to the synagogue to pray, like all faithful Jews would do on every Sabbath day. And in fact, Jesus does the reading at the Sabbath day celebration in the synagogue. The idea of the Sabbath, I wanted to just reflect briefly on the two things that the church teaches us or encourages us to do with regards to the Sabbath. And the first thing is that the church asks us to do something in a positive way. And the second thing about the Sabbath that I wanted to reflect on is that the church and God ask us to not do something on the Sabbath as well. And the first thing that obviously I wanted to just mention briefly is the idea that the church asks us on Sundays, on the Sabbath day, or Saturday night, if that's what works for us. The church asks us to keep holy the Sabbath by attending Mass. And in fact, the church asks that we make that a non-negotiable part of our life. The church has a very few things that it asks us to that are non-negotiable types of things, and going to Mass on Sunday is actually one of them. And I think we live in kind of or I was at least brought up in kind of a culture in the United States where Sunday Mass has sort of, for some people, has faded from that realm of non-negotiable to hit and miss, so to speak. I know a lot of priests hear it in the confessional. Oftentimes it's kind of mentioned as kind of like a last thing. Oh yeah, I forgot I've missed Mass a few times. And I know for myself growing up that was the case. I mean, Sunday Mass was something that we definitely was a priority for us. But I remember one time going to confession. I was in Alaska traveling around right before the seminary, just kind of trying to spend all my money before I went away. And I went to confession one Saturday night in Alaska, up in the Anchorage Cathedral, and I did the regular thing, and kind of like I think a lot of people, I just kind of said at the end, and oh, by the way, because I've been out here hiking and stuff and kind of exploring, I've missed a few Sunday Masses. And the priest was like, "You've missed Mass?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I tried, but I mean, I was busy hiking." And he really kind of challenged me in a way that I had not heard it explained before about making Sunday Mass a non-negotiable part of my life. And it was so jarring for me and so sudden that I didn't know that. No one had ever really kind of explained it that way. And I was almost moved to the point of tears after my confession. But I'm thankful, obviously, as well. Although it was hard to hear that I had, in some ways, kind of missed the boat so badly, it was also helpful for me to have someone. I'm thankful to that priest for having done that. And so, again, maybe some of us have not heard that, and it can be jarring. I bring this up, and the church asks us to do this for our own sake and for honoring God. And so, that's the first thing about the Sabbath is that the church asks us to go to Mass. I always love the quote from Teddy Roosevelt. He once said, "Do whatever you will, but on Sunday go to Mass or go to church." And I think that the church. I think that's a great statement. Not the "do whatever you want" part, but definitely that idea that on Sundays we set that time aside for God, and that's what we see in the first reading. And in the gospel is this idea that we go to church on Sunday and we give thanks to God. And so that's the first part. The second part is also probably not as well known, and that is the idea that the church not only asks us to do something positive, to go to church, but then if we notice in that first reading, what do they do after church? They have a feast. They have, they set out the choice meats and the desserts and the great drinks and all of these types of things that they talk about. After they go to church, they then spend the rest of the day sort of enjoying it, relaxing, and giving thanks and celebrating. And so the church then asks us as well, not only to come to church on Sunday, but to then make the rest of the day, as much as we're able, a day of rest, a day of celebration, and a day where we don't do any unnecessary work or labor. And I think, again, that too is something that is sometimes hard to recapture or reclaim. I know from my own life, again, Sundays very often when I was a young adult were an opportunity to get stuff done so that Monday wasn't as busy. And it really kind of became this 7-day-a-week work cycle. And certainly there are some professions where working on Sunday is part of it. I mean, if nurses and doctors and all these different professions, police, of course, the church understands that. And of course, there are times where we have to work. But there are also, I think, if we're really honest with ourselves, I think we would have to say that there is a lot of stuff that people do on Sundays that doesn't need to be done and is, in fact, unnecessary types of things, and would be better off if we just relaxed a little bit and gave that time to God. And I know for my own working on that has been it's been difficult at times. There's a real temptation to do things on Sunday, but I know as I've really fought that and I've really worked to keep that part of my day clear, to make Sunday a day of rest, it has helped me immensely, spiritually speaking. One of the things that I've done is I drew a line in the sand several years ago, and I said I would not go grocery shopping on Sunday anymore. And I would try to work on that. And it's been great. It's been one of those things that, but at the same time, it's a challenge. I remember, there's been a lot of Saturday nights where it's like 9 o'clock at night, and I haven't had a chance to get the groceries yet, and I know I can't go tomorrow. I know I can't go on Sundays, so I run to the Kroger or wherever at 10 o'clock at night, which is actually, in a weird way, is kind of fun. Everyone else in Kroger at 10 o'clock at night is either buying alcohol, or it's teenagers that are buying heavily caffeinated drinks because they're getting ready to play video games all night. And then it's me walking around in my priest garb, and everyone just sort of clears out of the way when it's like I'm a vampire or something. But so in a weird way, it's kind of enjoyable to go to Kroger late on a Saturday night. And the more, someone kind of brought this up to me at some point too, and I had never really thought about it. Right now, Sunday is the second or third busiest shopping day of the week, depending on which study you look at. And I think that should give us pause, not just for ourselves, because God is asking us to relax and enjoy one another's company and to slow down and to recharge our batteries so that we are, closer to Him and able to enjoy things. But also, if we choose to do things on Sundays, if we choose to go grocery shopping, let's just use that as an example. If I'm grocery shopping on Sunday, not only am I violating the Sabbath in the sense of doing something that I don't need to do that day, I'm also really, in a way, forcing other people to work and serve me so that I can be doing that on Sunday. If no one showed up at Kroger on Sunday, then the manager would start letting all of the employees take Sunday off. But because everyone shows up at Kroger on Sundays, well, then the manager or whoever is going to say, well, we need to then make people work on Sundays. And so it's this vicious cycle of, if everyone just sort of relaxed as God is asking us to do, it wouldn't be the case, but right now, again, it's become another opportunity to simply work and get stuff done so that our week is not as hectic. I think we need to recapture that and to reclaim not only the importance of Mass and going to church on Sundays, but also of then how we spend the rest of our Sundays, taking that as an opportunity to instead relax and recharge and draw closer to God. God's asking us to do that because He knows what we need better than we do. And so He's making it a command. He's commanding us to have this day because He knows that otherwise, if He didn't command us to do it, that we probably would not. And so we pray for the strength and the grace to keep holy the Sabbath, as they did in the first reading, to keep holy the Sabbath as Christ did in the Gospels, so that we may continue to renew ourselves every week, so that then during the rest of the week we are charged and energized to spread the gospel and the good news to all of those that we meet.